Good evening, everybody. Pastor Chad here, coming to you from Gospel Open Bible Church. It is Thursday night, and we just wrapped up an amazing hour of prayer. As many of you know, every Thursday night from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we have an hour of prayer. Just a time to sit at the Lord's feet and listen to Him and to be refreshed in the Spirit. And it is one of my favorite hours of the entire week. When I first came to this church, this was one of the first things that I did when I came here. The church already had a season of prayer that they did once a quarter. But for me, that just wasn't enough. That just did not appease my heart. I want to see God's people be people of prayer. And so the Lord instilled in me right away that I needed to establish a weekly hour of prayer. And so we did that, making Thursday night from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock the hour of prayer. And what inspired that came from Matthew chapter 26. You know the story. It's the night before Jesus is crucified. He is with his disciples, and they travel to the Garden of Gethsemane. And it says here in chapter 26 of Matthew, it says, "Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.' And he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And then he said to them, 'My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow and to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me.' And then it says, going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, 'My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will.'" What a great prayer, right? But then it says in the next verse, he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping, right? You know the story. It's late at night. They are tired. They are overwhelmed with grief and confusion. And Jesus asked them to pray, but instead they fell asleep. And so Jesus comes back and he wakes them up and he asks them this very important question, which is the main focus of what inspired our Thursday night prayer. And he said this: "Could you men not keep watch with me for even 1 hour?" And he asked Peter and told him, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak." And taking our cue from that passage, tonight during prayer, I really felt a sense from the Lord, an urging from the Lord, that in our lives right now, in this current situation that is going on in our country, in our community, I really felt the Lord say that there is nothing more important in your life right now than prayer. And most of you who know me sit under my shepherding and my teaching. I am not the kind of leader who is a touchy-feely, I felt the Lord tell me this type of person. I want the substance of God's word to be the authority upon which I make my decisions. But with that, tonight I felt a very strong urge from the Lord that we need to step up our prayer life. And so with that, taking our cue once again from Matthew 26, what I felt the Lord calling us to do, calling me to do as his disciple, and calling this church, Gospel Open Bible Church, to do, is to not only pray 1 hour a week on Thursday night from 7 to 8, but to expand that to every night of the week from Monday to Saturday. So with that, what we're going to start doing starting tomorrow night is that from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I'm going to open up the church, and it is going to be available to any who want to come and spend time praying to the Lord, sitting at his feet, allowing the Spirit to be refreshed. And we're going to do that, as I said, Monday through Saturday from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And if you're available any one of those nights, you can come here to the church. It'll be opened. We have plenty of hand sanitizer and those sorts of things to keep you safe if you're fearful about the virus spreading. And also along with that, maybe you can only come for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Nobody is going to think less of you if you aren't able to spend the whole hour. Or maybe, you can only make it on one night of the week. That is perfectly fine. Or, maybe you aren't able to make it to this location at all, and instead you would rather pray from the safety of your own home. That is perfectly fine. All of those are perfectly acceptable. I want you to know that this church is going to be open, though, from 7 to 8 o'clock every night of the week, except for Sunday. We'll take Sunday off. And just to ramp up our seeking of the Lord so that we don't fall into temptation. For truly, the spirit is willing, but oftentimes the flesh is weak. And it just seems like there is so much temptation right now. So therefore, I believe the Lord is calling us to be even more faithful in prayer. And as I felt the Lord say, there is nothing in your life that is more important than prayer for this season. And so I'm calling you, church. I'm calling you to step up with me and dedicate even more time in prayer as you're able, as you're willing. And maybe it will be a sacrifice for you, but I think it'll be worth it. And one more note, along with that, we're also going to suspend our Wednesday night adult class for the foreseeable season. And instead, we will be seeking the Lord in prayer during that normal time. So we'll get back to the Pilgrim's Progress eventually, Lord willing. But for now, I really felt impressed that the Lord wants us to be praying. So won't you please join us? It begins tomorrow night. The church will be open at 7 o'clock. I'll be here, and love to see you. God bless.